Oh.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Oscar Buzz. Trevor here, joined by Sam, and we are talking about Yorgos Lanthimos' latest film, Poor Things. Wow. I saw it at the Chicago International Film Festival. Sam saw it in the New York Film Festival. We were both absolutely blown away. I think it's important to note we are both very big Yorgos fans. We were already very excited for this going in, but expectations absolutely just blown out of the water. Like it's ridiculous. Like my fucking hair right now. I don't know what's going on, but whatever. You wanna take it away? Because you saw it first and you were like would not shut up to me about this movie for weeks before I
Yeah.
saw it.
So a few days ago, Trevor texted me after he saw the movie that every time we have a conversation, it's just like Nellie Leroy and Bella Baxter screaming at each other, and that is
Me being
the
Nellie Leroy, you being Bella.
of
Yeah.
course. And
Yeah.
that is just the most accurate thing. I knew from the featurette of this movie when I saw the clip of Emma Stone and Mark Ruffalo lying in bed naked after they just had sex, when she goes, "Why do people not just do this all the time?" I knew that this was going to be the best thing in the world. I have not in so long seen a character this relatable to me. I find
Which is a wild thing to say. Just
me,
for the record.
sense. I am someone with no filter, and I tell people things very
Okay, Joe Rogan.
okay. Well, no, but in a fun way. Like I don't when I do that. I'm a very honest person, and I hate like people who are fake. I hate dishonesty. So I always like one of my mottos is just like be really honest and upfront, and even if that's a little crazy, go for it because you won't regret it. And that's what this character is, except like doesn't have that awareness of that. It's a development of
She's just doing it. Yeah.
Just does it, and it's the most hilarious, glorious thing I've ever seen in my life. It is a Frankenstein tale with also a Barbie tale. It's like if you took Barbie but made it Frankenstein, and instead of her girlhood journey, it's her sexual awakening. And
Yeah.
I found that so compelling. And I think we have the best character of 2023 on our hands here. I mean, the most memorable and quotable for sure.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, no, what Emma Stone does here is really, really fascinating because I think a lot of it comes from the dialogue as well from McNamara's screenplay. But the way that she delivers it and the way that she, through her performance, develops Bella's like dialect is something really interesting. And I know you've seen it twice, three times, twice. I want to watch it again because I really just want to pay attention to how she is developing her dialect and her pattern of speech and like the rhythm of the way that she's speaking, because it's a really interesting thing to look at from a performance perspective. But she's the only like great performance in this. Like Mark Ruffalo is doing a lot. Willem Dafoe is kind of playing this really like heartbreaking character, if I'm being honest. It's like this really like. Yeah.
I thought going in that I was going to get a usual Willem Dafoe evil scientist,
Like
but
that,
he's
yeah.
actually really sweet. And
Yeah. Let's say again to clarify, in a very messed up way.
Oh yes,
So, but yeah, I don't know. I mean, just the entire ensemble. I think that Susie Bemba is also not being talked about enough. I thought that she was really fun. Catherine Hunter is doing some very interesting stuff. And I know you had a couple. I really liked Rami Youssef, Gerard Carmichael, Christopher Abbott. I liked what all of them were doing in the film. I thought it
I
all
liked
worked.
Gerard Carmichael more than most people seem to. I thought like the way
I
he
liked him
was
a lot.
offbeat in the movie worked. Like he was kind of meant to be.
He felt like he was in a from a Wes Anderson film into a Yorgos film.
Yes, and I kind of appreciated it.
For sure.
Rami
It also
Youssef-
made me want to see Carmichael
Rami-
in a Wes Anderson movie. But
Yes, Rami Youssef doesn't get a lot to do, but I loved a particular scene with him in it, mostly because of Bella.
towards the end.
No, towards the beginning, and
Oh,
he is,
I like the one towards the end when they're
you know,
walking.
there's one. It's just a line that Bella says in that scene that I remember. It doesn't have to do with him whatsoever.
Oh, okay. Oh, well.
But yeah, there's a performance towards the end of the movie that didn't really work for me. I don't know. I guess by that point in the movie, I didn't really want to see that. But that was my only issue with the film.
Yeah, I know some people have had problems with where it goes in the third act. I didn't really.
Well,
I thought
just like
it
those
all
5
worked.
minutes with Christopher Abbott, I didn't love.
Okay, that's fair. That's fair. I thought it worked because it felt like it was kind of I know it felt necessary, I guess, to complete her like to complete Bella's arc, to have that sequence because otherwise I don't think that we necessarily like there isn't a lot of change necessarily within the character of Bella. She's really just like existing and growing. Like yes, she changes like in her dialect
It
and the way that she's
changes like
acting,
right.
but her thesis and like where her character is at like philosophically doesn't really change. It's just about her embracing the way that she is rather than like having a character arc where she's changing. And I think to really feel like she has completed her arc, I think that we have to have those moments with Christopher Abbott. Otherwise, we don't like it. I feel like her arc is just very
Yeah,
like
it
flat
definitely
without
makes it
it,
more full circle. I guess I just didn't really like what Christopher Abbott was doing performance
which is
wise.
fair. I mean, and that's just entirely fair and
Yeah.
subjective. But I know I think it works. And listen, there's gonna be a lot of comparisons with this and Barbie. And you know how much I love Barbie and how much I've talked about Barbie. I prefer this to Barbie. I think it is overall a stronger film. I think I might have a little bit more fun with Barbie, but this is by far like it's a much more interesting film to textually engage with. It's doing a lot more. It does the same type of themes about like constructing your own identity outside of the box of society's constructs and all of those ideas. But I think the really interesting thing that I think Barbie almost avoids in a like comedic way, that this just very directly went into, is about how those constructs are for the most part created by like hegemonic powers and the systems and structures of capitalism, and
Mhm.
how those we feel like we must fit into the certain gender or sexuality norms, or fit into all these types of things of what polite society is, as they say, not because it's like, oh, it's what is best for us. It's because, well, there's no way that we can live in society and make money and like have a profitable life and live comfortably without those things. And I think that whereas Barbie kind of has like the Willem Dafoe character, where it's like played off as like kind of a joke throughout that. And I still, I mean, again, I still obviously love Barbie, but Poor Things directly engages with how societal structures and the power structures that exist within the world are the things that are directly enforcing these social constructs. So I really loved how Yorgos took it to the next level, I guess,
Yeah,
with that.
it definitely has a different focus. I think the fact that Barbie is a massive studio film definitely contributes
Yes.
to
Well,
some
yeah.
of that. I don't think that's Greta Gerwig's fault that she can't like fully explore certain things. I think it's just a product of it being a massive movie with a $150 million budget that makes $1 billion at the box office, and the fact that this is an expensive movie. Like I
Yeah.
there was this budget could have easily been like 50 million. So
If not more,
if
let's be
not more.
honest. Like some of those visual effects, which
Yeah.
like this movie
There's a
looks stunning. I mean, we don't really need to talk about that much because you've seen it in the trailer. But like the visuals in this, particularly when she goes to like Spain and Portugal,
yeah,
like
it's
and
expensive.
like
It's an expensive
Paris as well, like it
but
looks
he doesn't have the
insane.
limits of this being it's not like he has to make a movie catering
There
towards a
isn't a Poor Things toy. There
audience
should be,
exactly.
but
Right. And I think that with Barbie, it definitely felt like this introduction to this world. And I think it nailed that because the movie, what it was discussing, a Barbie doll, is something that is
yeah,
presented to people who own those at a young
and
age.
who are younger, and it's in keeping with
Usually
that. Yeah.
younger than the moments in life when you learn about the powers, the hegemonic powers that you mentioned that surround you. But with
And
Poor
sex,
Things,
and
right,
like yeah,
but with Poor Things, it sort of it changes the narrative on when a person learns that by having Bella be someone who lived a life, like a normal life, and then get introduced into this
yeah,
insane experiment. It kind of forces you to consider the structure of how these hegemonic powers influence people and the pace at which they influence people. And it really played with that. And I think
yeah,
that the reason why, especially towards the end of the movie, you really get to root for this character is because her autonomy and sense of self becomes so profoundly strong. And not all of the things she's doing are, perfect or representing something
yeah.
amazing. In fact, a lot of them aren't, but you are still enveloped in her journey because of her power, because of how much you connect with her and how, due to the fact that her journey and her upbringing was so oddly specific and you feel so oddly connected to it, you're able to root for her throughout the entire thing. And
Yeah.
Emma Stone leads it so forcefully and so dominantly that you are just immediately drawn in. It is a very dynamic film in both its presentation, its structure, its narrative, and its thematic elements. So you have this incredible dynamic exploration of a sort of simple idea, but it
Hmm.
deconstructs it in a very complex way.
Yeah, I mean, if Barbie is like sociology of gender studies 101, then Poor Things is like sociology of gender studies 301.
Right.
Like, and
Exactly.
I think that they each serve their purpose, and I still love both movies, but Poor Things is definitely it's a more nuanced and I think advanced take on the matter.
Mhm.
But again, movies don't always need to be compared against each other. I think that they're each great in
Yeah.
their own right. So yeah, I think it's hard to get into a lot more without spoilers, and maybe
Right.
we'll have
Well, just
a spoiler
beyond all of
analysis
our,
later.
philosophical discussions and whatnot,
Yeah,
this movie is just so fucking
it's
hilarious.
really fun.
It's
Yeah.
it's the funniest movie I've seen in a really long time. There was a scene in a restaurant that I laughed so hard that my rib cage and stomach began to hurt, and it was the thing is you see moments of it in the trailer and the featurettes, and those aren't even like the second or third funniest thing that
Yeah.
happened in that scene. It is
No, my theater was
so hilarious. Oh,
losing it.
it's crazy.
And see this in a theater. Like, Jesus, see it
Yes.
in a theater.
Not only
Um,
because of the visuals and the spectacle, but you have to have other people around you laughing. So
yeah, yeah.
it's just an incredible experience. It's so fucking fun.
It's really fun, but it also isn't afraid to kind of delve into some
Not at all.
weirder, scarier stuff. Like there's some very disturbing imagery, particularly in some sequences with Gerard Carmichael,
Yeah. And
and
also
Emma Stone.
Yorgos as a filmmaker, just like Bella Baxter, is very blunt and in your
Yeah,
face at times intentionally. And he twists normal situations to make them very obscure. And during those moments that you mentioned, he just uses his normal directorial style to do that. And he doesn't really try and get you to feel something from it or try and get you to feel sympathy, but more understand it from the main character's perspective.
yeah. No, absolutely, absolutely. I mean, and I think it's a lot of those moments where you see a lot of his theses on like capitalism and about like gender and about all of these types of things really come out, and it's really I think the central idea of this film is about like all of these things that we take for granted and that we think of as like the normalcies of life are all learned, and I think it's such a smart way to frame it because we're watching a character learn all of these things in real time. But I think when we see like little kids learning gender roles and what's expected of them in sexuality, what's expected of them in society, we don't think of it in the same way because they're little kids, right? We all did that. They're little kids. They're just doing what everybody else is doing. I think when it's framed this way and where you're seeing an adult woman
Hmm.
doing all
It
of these
makes you
things,
question it more.
right? Because
Right.
that's something that we can more directly relate to, and I think that that's just such a smart way to
Mm.
frame like Yorgos's thesis that I think he's trying to convey to the audience for us all to question why we have kind of filled these roles in society, rather than just
Yeah.
choosing to exist within them with no question.
Because like literally the first thing that happens after you leave the womb is what's their name, and the name of
Yeah.
the person is always gendered. Everything
Yep.
immediately in your life is gendered. The clothes you're going to get for that baby,
Yep.
the way you're going to name that baby, the attributes you're going to associate with that baby. And I understand that part of that is tied to sex and biological sex, but I think that Poor Things, despite the fact that we obviously know that this is a woman and we know that like she lived a life
There's
as
a
a
very trans reading of
right,
this.
that's
Like,
that's what I
I
that's
want to have this conversation in December once it's out and people have seen it. I think that we should have a discussion. And
yeah,
there's
because I
some,
think that
yeah,
there's a way to interpret this as I think that many trans people discover their identity, maybe not discover their identity as an adult, but are able to express themselves as an adult. And by having Bella
right.
grow up as an adult, I think it can be parallel to that experience in many ways. And
Well, and just the
yeah,
idea of being reborn,
right,
right,
exactly.
with a brain and a different body, like it's a very, I mean, because I think the other thing is that we don't, I think, ever learn the sex or gender of the baby.
No, we don't. It's true.
And I think that that's a really interesting thing is that it doesn't matter. And I think it's just how, she's acting in society is just, expressing herself however she feels. She doesn't have a filter. She isn't, initially learned into any piece of society. And I don't know. I don't think that I'm quite there with this reading of the film necessarily, but it's definitely a conversation that I want to have with other people once they're able to see it and reach out to other people. And I think that there's a really interesting conversation to have about this film because it really is doing a lot on top of just being a very fun film.
Mm-hmm. And you can watch it either way or in both
Yeah,
ways and
which
still
is
get a lot out of it.
right. Absolutely, absolutely. It
Yeah.
can be pure entertainment, and it is definitely one of Yorgos's warmer films because there is a very emotional journey.
Yeah,
There's a lot less like the characters still talking their weird,
of course. But
dialogue, but like
the film
it isn't
concludes
cold.
on a positive note that you take away, happiness from.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely.
And
Where are you
because
as far
of
as a
that,
rating? Where are you as far as a rating?
9.5.
Just give it a 10. We don't
I
do
don't,
halves.
I don't know.
We don't do halves. I'm giving it a 10.
One more time, and maybe I'll give it a 10. I don't know though.
So stingy with this.
I know
Um,
I'm crazy about my like 10 out of 10s.
um, let's talk about awards though.
Yeah, I was gonna say because of the ending, because of the note that it leaves you on. I think
This
that
is not winning Best Picture.
will not leave people cold. Therefore,
It's not
will
winning
get
Best Picture.
nominated for a lot of awards.
Yeah, it's
Unlike,
gonna get nominated for Best Picture. It's not gonna win.
I don't think it's gonna win Best Picture, but I do think
There are way too many very graphic sex scenes for this to win Best Picture. Like, I'm sorry.
sure, but I don't think it's winning Best Picture. But I do think it can win actress and screenplay. And I know it sounds crazy that I could predict those and not predict Best Picture, but The Father and Manchester by the Sea both won those awards and didn't win Best Picture. So it is possible for a movie to do that.
I think screenplay could make sense. I mean, listen, Emma's there. Like
She's
the
so
actress
strong.
race is
She's so
she's
strong.
gonna be strong. I don't like people draw the comparisons like, oh, Everything Ever All at Once was weird.
No,
This is not
this
the
is
same
so
thing.
no.
This is way weirder. And again, it's I think the sex stuff that I think is going to push a lot of people away. I
Yeah.
don't, and it's the very offbeat nature of it as well. It's going to push a lot of people away. It's way more than like Olivia Colman in The Favorite or anything with that. Like it is very graphic and like I don't have a problem with it. Put more sex in movies. I don't care. But for the Academy, I don't know if they're gonna respond to it, and I think that screenplay could make sense because in screenplay that's where you can kind of overcome a lot of those things. You can overcome a lot of genre barriers. I mean, obviously things like Get Out have one screenplay, right? I mean, like they care less about like kind of what they traditionally like in screenplay, but I just don't know how it's gonna fare in other categories.
I don't know.
As far as
I understand that Emma Stone has a lot of sex in this movie, and it's not glamorized in the way that sex with probably any other Best Actress winner who has.
it's
sex
very blunt. Like it is very blunt and in your
But I
face.
don't know. I think that from the contenders I've seen most of them. She makes the most sense to me performance wise.
I've seen all of them except Carrie.
I've seen all of them except Fantasia, who is like debatably.
Oh, I guess Fantasia too.
Yeah.
But she's yeah.
And to me, Emma Stone like makes the most sense based on performance. Like she is dominating every scene in the movie. The dialogue she's given is incredibly showy, and she eats it all up. She has incredibly memorable line readings. This character that she has helped to construct is extremely larger than life and memorable. And
Yeah.
it's a very
She would
big.
be deserving. Like my personal pick is still Lily Gladstone. She would be incredibly like Emma would be incredibly
I think
deserving.
it's one of them, but
There are
in October, and we're not going to know for a long
right.
time.
It's October, and everybody has a battle, right? Apparently, like Carrie, you said isn't in the film that much. Like she doesn't like.
No, she's
I mean-
in film a lot. I just felt that up until the final act of the movie, her character wasn't really
Right.
It,
Sure.
it didn't have
So
that.
she has that. Lily also has like she's like borderline supporting lead.
Right.
I mean,
and Emma
obviously
does
Emma.
not have that issue. Emma Stone has
She doesn't have that
way
issue,
more screen time
but
than both of
it's
them.
like the least conventional performance of like the possible contenders. Like Sandra Hüller's not a big name, and she's not going to be in a
Sandra Hüller
massive
is in a
film.
in a
Like
foreign film, and that's-
Fantasia Barrino, we don't know what's happening with The Color Purple. Margot Robbie, Lee aren't going to win. So like it's a really interesting spot. But to kind of move on from actors, it's obviously going to get a Best Picture nomination. I don't see it winning for all the reasons I just said. even
Yeah,
though I think it would
let's
be a
just
very fun
list the
winner.
nominations we think it's going
Director,
to be. Sure,
obviously gonna
director,
happen. I don't think it's
actress,
gonna win.
actress, both supporting actors, I think.
I think definitely Ruffalo. I'm not ready to fully commit to Defoe,
But
but I
it's
think
very
definitely Ruffalo's in.
possible.
Defoe could happen.
Screenplay,
Yep.
score,
Yep.
cinematography,
Yep.
production design, costume design,
Editing,
editing,
makeup,
visual effects, makeup,
sound, maybe.
and maybe sound.
Like it can get a lot.
It can get to 14.
I don't know if it will. Like
But
maybe sound
I
doesn't come
I
along.
think it'll probably get like 12.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think like maybe sound doesn't come along. Maybe Defoe doesn't come along. Maybe it like randomly misses editing for some reason. Like I don't know. Like things can happen. Nothing
I don't
saying
know
it's
if
like
the
a lock for
favorite got
VFX,
editing when it was
but
just not getting
no,
any
it it
nominations,
it
then
it would it
probably.
would make sense. I mean, VFX it could miss because this isn't a typical VFX movie, but like the VFX are very impressive. So it'll
It's
be
gonna get one of the most. It's gonna be one of the most nominated
yeah,
because
it's gonna get 10 plus. It's going to
there's
get
so
10
much
plus.
happening in the movie that and it's all exceptional. You have to
Yeah.
nominate like everything.
Yeah, it's gonna get 10 plus. As far as wins, like as we talked about, like maybe Emma. As far as above the line, I only really see like Emma and then screenplay as possibilities at this point. As far as wins, below the line, production and costumes are obviously incredible. I'm still leaning Barbie just because Barbie, I just think is going to be more widely seen,
And
and
also the
also their
costume
names,
designer, yeah,
right? I mean, Jacqueline and yeah, Jacqueline Dren and Sarah
Sarah
Green.
Greenwood.
Greenwood, yeah, is her name. Yeah, they're both. They've have each won multiple Oscars. I think they each have like 10 plus nominations. Like it's crazy.
Has Sarah Greenwood won?
I think so. Oh, she hasn't won. So
So
then maybe
there
this
you
can be her
go.
first win, right? And she's been nominated a lot. Like it still makes sense for this to be a Barbie. Maybe they split. Like I could see a good argument personally for Poor Things to win makeup. I don't think it will because they love their biopic transformations, but the makeup in this is incredible.
Mm.
So I don't know.
Especially
It's
on Willem Dafoe, like it's very showy on Willem Dafoe.
yes, it's very showy. And it also has like some body horror makeup as well. Which
Squish, squish.
yeah. So I don't know. It's going to be a big player. Well, it's October. We'll have to see what happens with it. It's really hard to say at this point, but I feel comfortable saying like as far as the big things, I don't think it's going to be winning picture or director,
No.
but I do think that actress and screenplay are going to be like top contenders for the wins. But I think those are our thoughts for Poor Things. One of the best movies of the year. It's currently in my top
I
three of
love
the year.
Yorgos. I still think The Favorite is my favorite Yorgos Lanthimos film. Like that, I don't know if this
I
topped that for me,
think
but
so.
it's pretty close second.
It's really close for me as well. Yeah, I'd have to think about
I
that.
also love Killing of a Sacred Deer and Dogtooth and
I love the lobster.
like they're
Like
all so good.
we're if you couldn't tell, very big fans of Yorgos here. But that is it for our review of Poor Things. Still more reviews coming from festivals and as we get deeper into this awards season. But until next time, thank you for watching. You can find the links to follow us on social media in the description, as well as links to support the SAG strikes. But until next time, stay safe, everybody, and goodbye.